When we think of funerals of kings in the past, we don't often think about how their body was prepared in the lead-up. Yes, many royals, especially in the Tudor era, had their corpse embalmed, but I bet you didn't know that on one occasion in France, a king in the medieval period had his body boiled down to make a king soup. Now, it is not as disgusting as it sounds. You may be thinking that king soup equals cannibalism, but actually, that's where you're wrong. The king, and more specifically King Henry V, was boiled down to enable the transportation of his bones back to his homeland of England for burial within Westminster Abbey. Now, Henry V is another king remembered for his great authority and soldiership. He earned his reputation as a warrior and even came close to death on one occasion before the actual event. As you see in 1403, during the Battle of Shrewsbury, Henry made a grave mistake, and he looked towards the sky at the exact moment an arrow came falling down, and this arrow hit him straight in the face, luckily missing his eye. The arrow, however, did embed in his cheekbone, causing a very difficult removal. So instead, Henry snapped the arrow and continued his fight, leaving the arrow in his face in a very dangerous predicament, as it was extremely close to his arteries and his nerves. Now, as Henry V's story goes, he and Catherine of Valois, a French princess, were only married for 2 years thereabouts, and although they had a son together, also called Henry, they didn't actually spend that much time together. You see, Henry died on the 31st of August 1422 due to what at the time was thought to be dysentery, a sometimes fatal disease of the gut and caused by poor hygiene or sanitation. And it was a very bad infection which at the time had no cure, and you had to ride the wave that you were on. And on this occasion, Henry V was not lucky. You see, if you really look into it, Henry suffered for a long time, and dysentery, when fatal, is usually quite quick, and this leads to the belief that he in fact died of something else or an additional contributing factor. The use of the term St. Facre's disease leads to the belief that this was the case, and usually this term relates to illnesses such as colon or rectal related illnesses such as hemorrhoids, fistulas, or even colon cancer. The logical choice would have been that Henry V died from colon rectal cancer at the age of 35. Catherine of Valois even had time to see Henry in France after travelling all the way from England before he died, which also suggests that it was more than dysentery. Something that was prolonged and, sadly, was very painful for the king. Now, the most interesting yet morbid part of the story, it is what happened next to this warrior king. You see, in the 15th century, sending a king back to his own country just wouldn't work. There was no way to preserve the remains, and wrapping him in ox skins, as was customary at the time, just wouldn't cut it. Now, accounts differ as to what happened next, and some say he was embalmed, but others state that a more drastic process was carried out, and the remains of the king were eviscerated. It's thought that the remains of Henry V were cut up into pieces and then placed into a boiling vat of wine or vinegar. The remains were then boiled until the point where the bones easily slipped the skin and muscle containing them. Then the mixture was separated. A coffin was used for the bones, which were then sent back from France to Westminster Abbey in England, and a lead pot containing the rest of the mixture was then interred in the abbey at St. Maur-de-Fosse, which is around 10 kilometres southeast of Paris. The tomb containing Henry V's bones in Westminster Abbey can now be found placed at the very eastern end of the Confessor's Chapel. Henry V is a king remembered in 2 minds. The first for being a warrior in his kingship, but secondly, for being a king who faced a brutal and barbaric end after he had already died, boiled into a king soup, in order to easily transport his remains home. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to That's Grim. Thank you.